What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Baltimore Ravens Rundown. My name is Joey Petersen. I am your host, and on today's show, we finally got the update we've been waiting to hear for a very long time from Isaiah Likely himself. We're going to talk about his health, his status for Monday's game, and his status for the rest of the season. If you have no clue what we're talking about, we got to throw it all the way back to the summer, July 29th. On the final play of training camp that day, Isaiah Likely went down after going up for a ball, fractured his foot, had to get carted off. We originally thought it was going to be much worse than a fractured foot. Had surgery a couple days later, and after the surgery, it was said that there's a decent chance he makes it back by week 1. And as we know, as of right now, he was not playing in week 1. He did not play in week 2, but week 3 is still in question, okay? We saw this on his Instagram just the other day, him kind of, out there doing some drills, being able to put full weight on it, being able to run, stop, do all the things you need to do as a tight end in the National Football League. But more than anything, after seeing these photos, after seeing these videos, and after hearing what I'm about to tell you, what he said last night in an interview, it feels like he has trust in his foot again, right? He fully trusts it, and that's a hard mental gap to get over once you suffer an injury as an athlete. Before we tell you about what Isaiah Likely had to say about his status, make sure you subscribe because it's free. Okay, it does not cost you a dime. You don't get signed up to any mailing lists. Most likely, you just forget that you do it. Okay, 357 subs way to 37,000. If you have not joined us yet, hit that big red sub button below, and you might even think you're subscribed. Just make sure. Go down there and check, and if you're not, change that. So at Jimmy's Seafood last night, Isaiah Likely was in an interview. It's going to air on Saturday. I'd kill for some Jimmy's Seafood right now. Would definitely beat the turkey sandwich that I'm going to have today for lunch. And he got this question: when will you be back on the field? And I'm sure he knew he was going to get that question. The minute everybody knew he was going to be interviewed, everybody figured he'd be asked when his game status and when he's going to be back playing for the Baltimore Ravens. And his answer, very simple, very short, but very, very sweet. Very soon. Very soon, Isaiah Likely said, from the horse's mouth itself. This is phenomenal, okay? And this is what we've been waiting for a very, very long time since he went down in July. This team needs him back, okay? And I get it. You might hear me say that, and you might think that's ridiculous because this team has put up 81 points in 2 weeks of play. And to that point, I'd say, yeah, that's not wrong, right? The offense is doing fine even without him there. But still, I don't think this team has faced a defense that's necessarily stout, and he makes everybody around him better because that's just another target that the defenses have to worry about. Isaiah Likely talked about the injury, how it occurred, how it happened, and what it specifically was. He said, I caught a ball, good that he caught it, landed on my ankle a little wrong. Sanoussi was trying to make a great play on the ball and stepped on my foot by accident. Grabbed my foot, felt like I couldn't put pressure on it, went inside, got an MRI, seeing that I had cracked my 5th metatarsal. That is the outside bone on the foot. If anybody's watching that's not a doctor, you and I are very, very similar. I had to Google that. So coming up, I'm going to tell you exactly why Baltimore needs him back, and it's going to have a lot to do with actually what we talked about last night, if you saw that video. What do you think? Will Likely play Monday against the Detroit Lions? Give me a yes or give me a no in the comment section down below. Weigh in with your answer. Will we see number 80 on Monday Night Football? Let me know. So it's obvious that Mark Andrews has started slow, right? We don't need to talk about that any more than we did last night because we talked about it pretty much for 10 minutes straight on last night's show. 4 targets, 2 receptions, 7 yards, and no touchdowns. Like, Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews are decently close in receiving yards for 2025, and Mark Andrews has played in twice the games. But it's not just the fact that he's not getting targets or not getting receptions or not getting yards that's a little bit alarming. Just not really using him a lot this year. And I get it. You got a really good, pair of wide receivers. But also, you had some good wide receivers last year. He's only ran 38 routes in 2025. That's 24th among all tight ends in the National Football League. And comparing this year to last year, for the entirety of the season, Target percentage to tight ends was 31.5. Through these first 2 games, that's dropped down to 10.6%. And I feel like a lot of that is because of Likely's absence. And last year, it felt like a lot of Mark Andrews helped open things up for Isaiah Likely. If Isaiah Likely had a lot of success, like that first game against the Kansas City Chiefs, part of that was because Steve Spagnuolo's kind of game plan going into that game was to bracket off Mark Andrews, was to take away Mark Andrews, opening up Isaiah Likely. And it feels like this year, even though Likely's not back on the field yet, it's flipped in a sense. Like it feels like this year it's going to be Isaiah Likely is going to help unleash Mark Andrews, which is the opposite of what we've seen since Isaiah Likely was drafted. Regardless of who's helping who, regardless who's getting the lion's share of the targets, catches, yards, they make each other better. Each of those players are better when the other one is on the field with them. That's just the truth. That's just a fact, okay? And you're going to want these guys on the field together, right? Because they combined for over 1,000 yards last year. They combined for 17 touchdowns. They combined for 10 plays of 20 or more yards, almost 100 receptions. Now, sure, Mark had better numbers last season, right? I think Isaiah Likely had something to do with that as well. But I feel like this is the year they pass each other and Isaiah Likely becomes that tight end one. Who knows what will happen at the end of the season? They're both up and both have contract years. This is the final year of each of their deals. So it's interesting. It's tricky for 2 guys who play the same position, especially when one of them is a franchise legend. But honestly, I don't care. I don't care. And to quote the famous movie line, frankly, dear, I don't give a damn. I just want Likely out there. I just want this offense to be humming. And it's humming without him, but I think it's going to take another step up when he gets on the field. Show him your support. If you want him back as soon as possible, do me a big favor, hit that thumbs up button and like today's video. I got something else you'll like. This awesome deal from our friends at PrizePicks. Did you know if you download the app today and use our code CLNS, you get $50 in lineups when you just play $5? Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, and you and I make decisions every single day. But the cool thing is, on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. PrizePicks offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks won't count it as a loss. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. The good thing is, ladies and gentlemen, my picks, they tend to hit. And here are my picks for Monday night's football game against the Detroit Lions. Give me the more on Zay Flowers' rush yard. He's gone back-to-back games where he's had positive rush yards, and he's only right now set at 1/2. Give me the more on Derrick Henry, 87.5 rush yards. I feel like it's going to be a big bounce back from King Henry. And although I don't want this to happen, give me the more on Amon-Ra St. Brown, 1/2 a receiving touchdown. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The link to this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. We thank our friends at PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. So the upcoming schedule, why I want Likely back in the lineup, is because you're playing 4 teams over the next 4 weeks that made the playoffs last season. And the next 2 combined for, how many wins did Kansas City get last year, Gage? They had 15 or 14. The next 2 teams you're playing combined for 30 wins last season. That's ridiculous, guys. You need all your best players, all your best weapons, okay? And if he's not back by Monday against Detroit, which I still think there is a slight possibility, I'm just begging, please, please, please be back by Kansas City. Because we all remember what happened last year when he played Kansas City. 111 yards, 9 catches, 12.3 yards a catch, and a touchdown. And it should have been 2, right? Because the one where his toe was on the white, that one was absolutely devastating. Regardless, we know this team's better with a minute. We know Mark Andrews is going to be better with him out there. And so I'm just looking and hoping and ready for Isaiah Likely to be back in this lineup. Before we get out of here, we got to talk a little bit of AFC North, okay? The standings sit as current. Bengals in first, Ravens in second, Steelers in third, Browns in fourth. Now, the Bengals are going to be without Joe Burrow for the next 3 months, so I like those to change at the top. For this week, here's what we're looking at. The Steelers go on the road, play the New England Patriots. Patriots have put together 2 weeks of pretty decent football. The Bengals will be on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. That will be Jake Browning and that start. Who's going to be starting for the Vikings, Gage? Carson Wentz will be starting for the Vikings. And then the Browns will be taking on the Packers at home. I like them to fall to 0-3. And don't forget, don't be discouraged. I think it's easy for us to forget that last year, Week 17, was the first time that Baltimore had sole possession of the AFC. And so, yeah, we might not be in first place this week. We might not even be in first place next week. We might not be in first place until Week 15. That'd still be earlier than last year, and they had sole possession of the AFC North for the first time in Week 17. What is your confidence level in the Ravens three-peating? Scale it for me 1 to 100 in the comment section. I really, really don't want to know how you're feeling. 100 means you're like guaranteeing it happens. 1, you're saying no chance. You let me know. I'm feeling good about it. I'm probably about like an 87. That's where I sit. Make sure you got me followed on social media. You can find me at JoeyPetersen8 on Instagram and on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, daily videos. It's never going to cost you a dime. It never has. It never will. That will never change as long as you guys keep hitting that big red sub button.